My name is Ross Benjamin, host of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. And like every Thursday, I'm joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com, one of the finest handicappers in the country. Folks, we're brought to you by GamblersWorld.com and GamblersWorld.net. Again, the .com site is our video portion of our company, and the .net is where you'll find 10 of the finest handicappers in the country. And you can check that out. And you know what the best thing about .net is when you go there and you see the sports betting experts on that channel. If you don't know or not recognizing those names, then you haven't been around long in the sports betting industry or following it. But that's okay. We're okay with that. But you know what the best part is? You get a guarantee. So if you bought my NFL preseason pick on Thursday night on the total in the Philadelphia-Cleveland game, and I happen to lose, we're going to credit your account $25 back, the same purchase price that you paid. And you can use that anytime you want, on anybody you want, any way you want, on any handicapper you want. So anyway, Doug, without further ado, how goes it, my friend? You got a weather report for me today?
Well, I can, yes. Well, it's hot again. The 109 today, I think it's supposed to be. And I think it's not, I always hear it's somewhat made a bigger deal than it is. Like, it's 109, it's 110. Well, the average high is 105. So it's not like it's like over the top, but we do have some humidity, Ross. So if you actually step outside, you will get a little light sweat going here. So that's part of the deal this time of year. But officially at the airport, the Phoenix airport downtown, Phoenix, have not had rain in 147 or 8 days now.
Wow.
We've
Is
had
there any grass that grows there? I mean, did it grow grass?
It gets watered, the people that do have grass, but there's plenty of areas, especially let's just say the newer cities and, that have been developed, they have what's called xeriscape. So that's just, no grass, no nothing, it's just pretty much all wild. And you just grow it that way. And that's when you move into that community, that going in.
There you go. I mean, there's your weather report from Doug Upstone. He's always good for that, at least once a month.
And I'll be on at 5 and 10, by the way, too, with another added report then, too. So just keep that in mind.
In any event, if you were with us last week, folks, on our week 1 predictions here on this channel, between all the sports betting experts that participate on this channel, we went 11-5. Not too bad. And if you haven't been with us earlier this week, we've already done 1, 2, 3 shows, and I did a 4th one by myself. So if you missed those shows, no problem. Go to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel. There's archives of every show. That entails about 3, 6, 9, around 10 selections so far. And me and Doug are going to cover 3 games today. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Jesse Schul and Sean Higgs, and we'll be covering 3 more games in the morning. And then I'll be covering the Monday night game by myself on Saturday. So looking forward to all that, and stay tuned. Again, folks, a friendly reminder, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, take a second to do so. Costs you absolutely nothing. There's no strings attached, no hidden agenda, no tricks up our sleeve. Basically, you subscribe, it costs you nothing, and you're privy to some of the best sports information, betting information, I should say, across the internet, hands down. And if you're on your PC, you'll see a WC logo right there in the bottom right-hand corner of your video box. Just click on that. It'll get you subscribed. And if you're on your mobile device, which most of you are, you'll see a black subscribe button right underneath the video box. Just click on that. And while you're at it, folks, go into your YouTube settings. If you hit your notification alert bell for the Winner's Circle sports betting channel, you'll be notified immediately upon any releases of any of our shows going up on our channel. And don't forget to give us a like, because you know what? We're older gentlemen. It doesn't take us a lot to be happy. Just hit the like button. We put a lot of effort into this show. Right, Doug? You agree?
I in principle I agree, but don't say just that's all I need to be happy, Rod. I need a lot more than that.
All right, no more old reference. Okay. Our reality is they call it a word, but I can't use it on air. Anyway, Doug, I'm looking at the card this week, and we were discussing off air. In the past, we very seldom saw a NFL preseason favorite of 6 points or greater. And when we did, it was very rare. I mean, you may have saw it at the most 3 or 4 times through the course of a preseason year. Of course, they played 4 games back then. And if you go way back, they played 6 games. But we got 3 on this week's card alone. And I don't know, I stopped and thought about it. What do I attribute to that to? I guess I can make a case that there's some really bad teams out there. And when you have a bad team, most notably, you have bad depth, so that's one thing. And also starting quarterback depth, like when you see a Joe Burrow go down and not scheduled to play throughout the preseason, the Cincinnati backup quarterback situation leaves a lot to be desired. But anyway, those are my thoughts. More importantly, what's yours?
Well, I don't know about more importantly, but I'll say this is, and this is actually happened across all of a variety of sports that, things that we're used to seeing. And this is why this is not easy. It's quite honestly, it's an evolving market. And so what's happened is pretty much like, as you mentioned, the old days, if you saw a line above 4, that was a rarity. Okay. Plus or minus 4. But because of the level of sophistication and because of the outcomes of games and stuff, the odds makers have gotten smarter. And so, for example, you look at Seattle and Dallas. Okay. Going into this week without even looking at the line, I had a lot of things that I really liked about Seattle. Didn't even look at the line. It just had a lot of numbers and things that I follow in the preseason. Lo and behold, I see a Seattle -7. And as to why, well, Dallas is notorious for not playing hard in the preseason. Everything has been based upon, this goes back to the Tom Landry days, quite honestly, but it just goes back. They're just trying to set their team up for game 1. That's has been their modus operandi for forever. That continues to this day. Seattle, haven't had quite as much success recently, but Pete Carroll has always, for the most part, put a little more emphasis on wanting to win preseason games. So you put those two things together, and all of a sudden Seattle's at home. Not that they're a full 3 this week, but it's stuff like that has changed how odds makers make lines. And I'll use another example. Now this goes to week 1. I mean, it used to be in week 1, you automatically would play any underdog that was 6 or higher. Okay. Week 1. I mean, it was just an auto bet. Now you look at who those teams are, the lines have come down on those week 1 games. And so with that, you don't get as many as what you used to see. So I think it's just all part of the package. And the number one factor is the odds makers have gotten sharper. And so we as handicappers and everybody watching us better, you got to get sharper too.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the betting trends of those games in particular, the -6 or greater, the favorites were horrible in terms of ATS results in those games up until about 5 years ago. And then it sort of leveled off a bit. But still, the old adage used to be was no team in NFL preseason action deserves to be a touchdown or better favorite. Sometimes you can make a compelling case for favorites in that situation now, but I really steer clear. If I like the favorite in that game, I'm probably not going to use it at -7. And right. I would be hesitant to use the underdog if that's the way I felt. So I just steer clear of those types of games now. But, it's Seattle -7. You got Arizona as a 7.5-point underdog at home this week. We're going to be covering that game. Well, Chip was supposed to be with us. Chip Chirimbus was supposed to be with us today. Unfortunately, he can't be. So he was going to cover that game. So let's take a look at that game real quickly. And then we're going to look at the 2 games we originally were scheduled for. And that's I'm going to look at the Bills and Steelers, and Doug will look at the Titans and Vikings. So stay tuned for that, folks. But this game here, Kansas City -7.5. at Arizona. Arizona coming off a come-from-behind win last week against Denver, in which their backups did a nice job of overcoming a 10-0 halftime deficit to win the game 18-17. Late touchdown with a 2-point conversion did the trick there. Kansas City, I mean, as much as Kansas City's a good regular season team, and as much as Andy Reid is a good coach, great coach, Hall of Fame coach, I often talk about, Doug, the fact that I go and put emphasis on head coaching trends during the preseason. And Andy Reid is just 8-16 straight up in his last 24 preseason games. I believe all of those were with Kansas City. But if you go back to Philadelphia, even in Philadelphia, he was a 500 coach during the NFL preseason. Yep. So, I mean, we're going to talk about two guys in Tomlin and McDermott, for example, that are very good during the NFL preseason and seem to put more emphasis on that. But that doesn't seem to be the case with Andy Reid. And I know this looks like a mismatch on paper, but it's a preseason game, folks. Keep that in mind. And we're talking about a 7.5-point home dog, not road dog, in preseason action. I almost have a small lean here toward the Arizona Cardinals.
I'm right with you, Ross, on that. In fact, Andy Reid, was a very good play against coach for the in August for football, and then I don't know if it was just the last two of the last 3 years. They actually won quite a bit. Which was a big surprise. As to why, there doesn't seem to be any reason other than he just wanted to, from that standpoint. But, in this one, I am hard pressed to believe, that Kansas City is going to put, all their eggs on the table here and, really go after this one. Maybe they will, from that standpoint. I just don't see it. And I will tell you, in Arizona, it was a big deal for them to win the game because everybody knows this is likely going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. New coaching staff, lots of enthusiasm, trying to get the program headed in the right direction. They know it's going to be an uphill task, and who knows if Kyler Murray will be their quarterback next year. If they end up, as with the worst record in the NFL, likely will take Caleb Williams from USC as the number 1 pick. So that's, those are things all to consider. But for this one, I'm with you, Ross. I think the play here is to take the underdog. I want to say that favorites of 7.5 or more over the last 20 years, they cover right around 42%. So it's not a great number. I think the play here is take Arizona with the points. Yeah.
And even more so if it's a home underdog of 7 or more, that decreases, or a road favorite of 7 or more, I should say, that decreases even more than that. So, Doug, and the other thing to factor in, we talk about quality depth. Well, obviously, Kansas City's a team with the better quality depth. But keep in mind, folks, okay, a roster like the Chiefs that has 90 players on the roster right now, and you can keep 53 on your active roster, or your game day roster is 47, your active roster is 53, and then you could do a practice squad. But you're talking about 5 or 6 open spots for 40 players. On the other hand, Arizona, there's a lot of guys that are vying for a roster spot, and it's wide open. It's a wide open competition. I'm not a proponent of urgency, desperation, or who's more motivated in a preseason game. But if there is such a thing as a motivational factor, I think you have to give a slight edge to Arizona just because of that factor alone. I don't know how you feel about that, but again, the vying for jobs and the open spaces for jobs certainly there is limited with Kansas City as compared to Arizona.
No question about it. And one of the things that occurs and it is often overlooked, but it comes up time and time again. A team, let's just say a better team jumps off to a quick lead. Okay. They pull their players. Okay. The coach now wants to just see the coach and the position players, and the position coaches rather, they want to just see how guys react in certain positions, okay, at certain positions for backup jobs. And so with that, they dialed things down to real simple. The other team then, maybe they just played a poor half, so they have more motivation, okay, to play in the second half. And so we see this, 4 or 5 times, sometimes more every week during the preseason, where the team builds a lead. If you pick that team, you're feeling great. All of a sudden, you end up losing the game, in the final 5 minutes. Why? Just it's just a difference of who wants to play and who doesn't want to play in that instance. So you got to try and it's not easy to do, but you got to try and handicap the whole game with that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example again is last week, Arizona down 10-0 at the half to Denver, comes back to win the Hall of Fame game. The Jets getting up 16-0 in the first half, losing the game 21-16. So very good point, Doug, and well taken. All right, Doug, your game that you are assigned to is the Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings, 8 o'clock on Saturday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, that would be. Right now, the Tennessee Titans, a 2.5-point road favorite, the total 37.5. Actually, you can get a 2 on this game if indeed you like Tennessee. So shop your line. Doug, what do you like here?
Well, one of the things, you've talked about it last week a lot, and, and not just with me, but with everybody, head coaches. One of the things that you have to figure into your handicapping is what their methods are. And so Kevin O'Connell comes into Minnesota. Okay. Nobody really knows. So you gotta, a lot of times it takes a year or 2 to get a good read on them. So does a coach like that try to win games with an organization, or does he just kind of just want to fill out his roster, have it be a glorified scrimmage, and the first team pretty much does all their work at practices or in scrimmages against other opponents? Well, I think Kevin O'Connell's kind of made his bet, okay, as to how we're supposed to look at him. Last week, for example, had a 10-0 lead on Seattle on the road, and they were outscored 24-3 the rest of the way. Minnesota under O'Connell falls to 4-0 straight up, and I believe 4-0 against the spread as well in August football. Now, odds makers must feel pretty confident to make Minnesota an underdog in this one, knowing that this has become their trend in terms of their general intentions as to how they want to play. So I think that's why you see Minnesota in their situation that they are. Now, last week, Tennessee, they'll be favored this week. And last week they gave up 2 long touchdowns in the first quarter to the Chicago Bears. They end up making a game of it, came back, had some things, but they committed 4 turnovers, which ultimately did them in to lose and failed to cover against the Chicago Bears. However, the one thing the Titans have going for them is they have a quarterback battle with Malik Willis and rookie Will Levis, battling for the number 2 position behind Ryan Tannehill. Now, let's not lose sight of the fact that this really is important for this team, because Ryan Tannehill is 35 years old. He was very injury prone in Miami. He only played 12 games last year. So this position and whoever wins this job really matters. So this is I think a very strong competition for this team. From that standpoint, it all makes sense then, to me at least. Tennessee is the favorite in this one. Plus, also like the fact that when a home team has a line of +3 to -3 after having lost their 1 or more consecutive games in the NFL preseason, they are 10-23 against the spread, and more recently 4-11. Let's take Tennessee -2 on the road at Minnesota Saturday night.
I won't ask you about the money line.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. I didn't want to hear about it this time.
All right, so Doug is going to take the Tennessee Titans on the road at Minnesota, and he makes a very compelling case for doing so. I mean, you look at that backup situation in Tennessee. I mean, both Malik Willis and Will Levis played pretty good last week. It was just the turnovers that killed them. I'm not a big fan of either guy. For the life of me, Doug, I watched Will Levis at Kentucky. That wasn't a high-powered offense. He must have had all the measurables and arm strength on his pro day, because I don't know how he was drafted so high. Malik Willis looked like a complete bust. He sort of redeemed himself last week in the preseason. And let's not forget, these 2 quarterbacks will be going against backups for the most part. So, you got to account for quarterback depth during the preseason action. And in terms of quality quarterback depth. Will Levis with a lot to prove. Malik Willis trying to reestablish himself and make himself worthy of the high draft choice that he was. He wasn't a number 1. He was a number 3, I believe. I stand corrected there. So, yeah, Doug likes the Titans minus the 2 over the Vikings. And again, we discussed the Kansas City Chiefs and Arizona Cardinal game, and both myself and Doug have a very small lean on the Cardinals plus 7.5 at home against the Chiefs. All right, I'm going to look at the Bills and the Steelers, and that game goes at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I know Doug's thinking, here comes the homer play. And I was all set to use the total on this game, Doug. I was. And then word came out about 2 hours ago in Western New York that the Bills starters will be playing for at least a quarter and a half in this contest. And subsequently, the only abrupt line move that's occurred so far on the Saturday card is this one, because we began the day with Pittsburgh as a 2.5-point favorite in this game. The total was 40. And since that news came out, Buffalo has jumped to a 1-point favorite, and the total has gone from 40 to 42. That's exactly why, folks. It's got nothing to do with sharp money, and it's got nothing to do with lopsided money going one way. That is just a move that is driven by the news that just came out in the anticipation of money coming in on Buffalo. Pittsburgh's been very good in the preseason with Mike Tomlin. Since 2017, the Steelers are 16-4 straight up and 14-6 against the spread, and that includes 4-0 straight up in ATS in their last 4. Additionally, 8-1 straight up and 7-2 ATS in their last 9 home games, all with Tomlin. I mean, Tomlin's been there since, I believe, 2007. So he's got a long history there, and they've won on a consistent basis during the preseason. Now, one of the things that Pittsburgh has thrived on is they've always had very good quality depth, and I'm not so certain that's the case as much in recent years, but I do know they have a pretty darn good backup situation with experience at quarterback. Mitch Trubisky, you got Kenny Pickett as your starter, and Mason Rudolph, who's had plenty of starting action. So they have a lot of experience in that regard in their backup camp. Yes, their starter is only in his second year, but he doesn't figure. I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to see a lot of action in this contest. However, the other flip side to that equation, the Buffalo Bills are 11-1 straight up in ATS in their last 12 preseason games under Sean McDermott, and that includes 7-0 straight up in ATS if they're playing in either game 1 or game 2 of the preseason, which obviously they are. I think Buffalo has better quality depth with the exception of the backup quarterback situation. However, something to keep in mind is last week between their 2 backup quarterbacks, Matt Barkley and Kyle Allen, they combined to go 22 out of 30 for 294 yards and 2 touchdowns against 1 interception. That's not bad, folks. Josh Allen's going to play about a quarter and a half in this game. I'm assuming the other 2 guys will split things down the middle from there. I'm going to have a very small lean here, and I unlike Doug, I'm going to exercise because it's just -1. I don't want to get a push if I win by 1. I know the odds of winning by 1 point are slim, but it does happen, and I'm going to lay the extra 10 cents and go with Buffalo -120 on the money line over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Doug, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, that news does certainly change things, and the line moved in accordance. This Pittsburgh team, to me, Ross, is really interesting, and we'll see how it plays out. But for the most part, them and Cleveland are considered to be the weak link in the AFC North. I'm not sure Pittsburgh is going to be that weak link. Not to say that Baltimore isn't good, and not to say Cincinnati isn't good. But boy, if you're looking for a surprise team, I think Pittsburgh, just my thoughts right now, Pittsburgh could be that team. That they're young, they've turned some things over. They feel very confident in Pickett, and he is. I don't know if he's always the most accurate, but he's a playmaker. Okay, now that doesn't necessarily apply to this game, so I'm getting ahead of myself here. But I'm going to go with you, Ross, a little, just because I think we're going to see more of the Buffalo's better players than we will see at Pittsburgh's. I'll lean with you and take Buffalo as well. But I'm going to do it -1 though, Ross, just to be different than you.
Just to piss me off. Anyway, the Bills -120 for me on the money line over Pittsburgh. Doug says just take a -1. The Chiefs and the Cardinals, we both have a small lean on the Chiefs -7.5, and Doug likes the Tennessee Titans as a 2-point road favorite at Minnesota. Doug, tell the folks a little bit about what's going on for you at Doc Sports, how you've been doing of late, any hot streaks you want to share with us, or what you may have on tap this coming weekend.
Well, this coming weekend, speaking of football, Doc's always releases their plays at 6:00 Eastern on Thursdays for any football week. So that being today, so at 6:00 today, I will have 4 NFL preseason games, including I hesitate to say this, but it is the game of the year. It's going to be my #1 play. I say that, it's not exactly like the regular season from that standpoint, but it is my top play unequivocally. So that's going to be available as a separate, or you can buy all 4 plays at Doc's. 75 and 53 the last 15 years, almost 59% on that in the NFL preseason. So long record of success. I know Ross has a very similar, if not slightly better record on that as well. Major League Baseball still rolling, 23-9. Okay, from that standpoint, thought I had a winner last night with Texas against the Angels with Reed Detmers pitching, and Texas having the #1 offense against left-handed starters, and Texas gets shut out. That's why it's called baseball, friends. From that standpoint, so that occurs, and then of course, I love to bring it up because it always makes Ross, frown. Okay. The CFL, okay, 9-2 this year, up over $2,700. I'm going to have 1, if not 2 plays going to work on that. There's a game Thursday I'm passing on, but there's 2 games I'm looking at this weekend. Check out the Upstone page at Doc Sports. Look for my plays there. You don't have to know the CFL. That's my job. I'll take care of you that way.
I will tell you this about the CFL. The coin flip's at the 55-yard line. I know that much. And a rouge is 1 point. What's a rouge? It's when you don't return a punt or a missed field goal or a missed extra point out of the end zone. If you don't return that kick, the other team, the kicking team, gets 1 point. So there you go. That's as much as I know about the CFL. I'm sorry, Doug.
The rouge is also the color of the Montreal Canadiens jersey. Okay, their home jersey. That color is it's rouge if you live in the province that they're in. So that's how you say that as well. So I'm a little extra for you, Ross, on that one.
I was always appreciative of your in-depth insight on all things that go on in the world. And that certainly is one of the most important things that I've learned over the last month. Thank you, Doug. I am in the preseason. Not too bad, folks. I started out last week with my premium plays over at gamblersworld.net, folks. You got to visit that site, gamblersworld.net. 2-0 with my preseason picks in week 1. I'm 20-10 documented since 2021 with my NFL preseason picks. That's good for 67%. 76-52 as documented by Sports Capping since 2010. That's 59% on a tremendous roll with my Major League Baseball picks. 17-8, not quite 23-9, but 17-8. I'll take it, 68%. And as all you out there know, I don't give out big favorites, so the return on investment will always be good and very good when I'm hitting at that kind of rate. And, NFL preseason, a lot of you out there are like, it's for degenerates. You can't make any money. How could you possibly bet the preseason? Well, we just gave you figures between me and Doug. Numbers don't lie and liars don't figure, folks. And by the way, Sports Capping came out with an all-time top 20 in the NFL preseason. There's 5 of the 10 handicappers or sports betting experts, whatever you want to term them as, at gamblersworld.net that are on that list. Myself, Chip Chirimbus, Jesse Shule, Sean Higgs, and Mark Lawrence. So there you go, folks. Gamblersworld.net, where we give you our personal guarantee. If you don't make a profit, you don't win according to our grading system, then we will credit your account the exact amount of your purchase price. All right, Doug, always a pleasure, my friend. Doug will be back with us on Monday afternoon. We might be talking some college football then, Doug.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. So until the next time, for Ross Benjamin and Doug Upstone, we'd like to ask you to kindly hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Costs you absolutely nothing. Take care and God bless, folks.